Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero of the Tour Coach Podcast. Recently, I was invited once again up to the Gurus of Golf, which is an unbelievable experience and an unbelievable event hosted by Rob Akins, one of the great teachers in the game. And all of that is done to raise money for Le Bonheur Children's Hospital up in Memphis. It's Rob realizing that as we all get older, there's this great generation of teachers that we should take advantage of and share some of their insights and their stories. And Rob did just that. And we're going to share them with you also. So sit back, relax, and if you love golf instruction and you want to learn, you're going to love these collections of interviews and stories with Rob Akins from the Gurus of Golf in Memphis, Tennessee.
Together with me today is Mike Shannon, a dear friend of mine, and Don Frost. They've both been dear friends of mine for a long time. I'll start with you, Mike Shannon. Tupelo Country Club. And what year was that when you were there?
That was 83.
83. So I was in high school in 83.
Yeah.
Graduated.
Yeah.
And then, it's pretty fascinating. Obviously, several courses here, but you were at Augusta National for a while, right?
Assistant pro at Augusta. In fact, a little different. I was a head golf professional for 16 years before I ever became an instructor.
Right.
And I remember I was a head pro at Allworth in Orlando, and I was laying in bed one morning, I'm looking at the ceiling. The thought hit me, I don't want to be a head pro anymore. I want to be an instructor. And I kind of threw that idea around a little bit, and I knew if I was going to make that kind of jump, I'd need some clientele. Living in Orlando at that time, we had David Ledbetter, Mike Bender, Brian Mogg, Fred Griffin, a couple other instructors. So I started thinking, I don't know if there's enough players to go around. So I kept thinking about it, and I said, well, if I'm a specialty instructor, I can work with these players. Because one thing I kind of knew is that full swing instructors don't like to teach putting. So that is what got me to move into the direction of being just a putting instructor. I don't do short game, I don't do full swing. 32 years now of just putting.
Just putting, yeah. I remember in the company that you first came with, they were bending the putters and everything. And you're the first person who kind of came up with the angle, how to aim it and all that kind of stuff. And so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we were doing a lot of research at the time. That was a Slazenger system. Yeah. And it was funny because we started to see things, how we could bend a putter to help a player aim it better. And I still have people today that come to me and says, you bent me a putter in 1990, and I still use the best putter I've ever had.
Does it fit their eye best?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So my friend Mark Connolly, which I was just with him 3 days ago, he has developed the coolest putting thing that I've ever seen in my life, and it's all done with cameras. You set the putter down there behind the ball, and it shows you exactly where you're aiming, without you having an attachment, nothing on it. It also knows exactly the loft you have on it. It also knows where the target is. Now, you can move the target, it automatically relines. You can move the putter, it automatically relines. So it doesn't matter what you just have it here on the floor, and we could change different things, and it automatically shows you exactly what's going on. So you can take 20 different putters, and you don't have to put anything on them. You don't do anything. You just set it on the ground, and you'll see exactly which one would fit your eye. So I think it's going to revolutionize how anybody would ever fit a putter. But more importantly, it also has the ball data. So if you really want to know the rotation, the balls, and all that, it's got that with it too. So he's with JC Video, a dear friend of mine, and it's going to blow the market up because there's nothing else like that in the putting world. It's going to really be neat.
Well, over the last 32 years, if we look at the things that have changed in instruction with technology, it's absolutely mind-boggling because I remember trying to get a player to make a stroke, and I had nothing. I had no video. We didn't have anything to work with. We're just kind of finding our way through. And then now you get players in. My lessons are 2 hours, and it takes every minute of 2 hours to not only find out what the player's doing, but then start to work with them at getting the results that they want to get.
I get it. Measuring everything is possible. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a couple of questions that I think a lot of people would be interesting. So, and not that, hey, there's a million ways to do everything, and I'm not going to say there's one way to do it, but if you had your preference at impact with the putter, would the putter be coasting, decelerating, or accelerating at the moment of impact?
Depending on the putting surface. And, you know, the putting surfaces have gotten faster over the years.
Absolutely.
And the faster we get, things change with how we are going to teach the better roll. It used to be, in instruction, we said, all right, keep the putter as low as possible going back so that as it came forward, you started to create lift. Well, now we don't want that. We want to get the putter moving up, going back, and then get as close to horizontal coming down as possible at impact, even in some cases, maybe even a little bit down, just to get that ball turning over. And
So that's fascinating to me. So when I think of going down, I don't see how that's going to turn it over. But maybe you can convince me, give me to see that. Because if I'm ball's here and I'm going down at it, how is that getting it to turn over?
well, there's a relationship between the effective loft of the putter and the descending angle of the
Okay.
putter. And that's where we have to, as an instructor, you've got to match those two up.
I got you.
You've got a player who has a de-lofted putter at impact and the putter's moving up, you might create a perfect roll out of that, or vice versa. But there's so many factors you're going to have to look at to get a player to have that roll.
Right. Right. I understand what you're saying here. I see it can be different. You know what I'm saying? As far as so my question, would the putter be going faster at impact or same speed, or would it be decelerate? What would you say the preference? I know it's changes on a 2-footer, but if I'm lagging a 20-footer, you know, we've always said you got to accelerate. So am I going to take it back short and I'm going to accelerate? Or is my through stroke as big as my back stroke? Let me ask you that question.
You know, with this, when the greens were slower, everybody accelerated the putter.
Yeah, they had to hit it.
Now the greens aren't like that.
Right.
So you find a lot of players actually have a little bit of deceleration coming in. We did a study 4 years ago. We found out in any length of stroke on the tour, the putter never goes 8 inches past the outside of the left foot. Whether it's a 3-footer or a 50-footer, it's got to hit and stop. And
Right.
you know, you would do that 20 years ago.
Yeah, you ball nigger at the hole.
That's exactly right.
Right. I think that's really changed. I think that, and that's kind of what I see, is that the through stroke isn't nearly as big as the backstroke. And it used to be where, and so a lot of my putters I see that struggle is they're still taking it back 2 inches, trying to go through 15. So they're racing into that ball and they can't control it, which would work in slow conditions. But
Yeah.
just like we used to chip a 7-iron, nobody chips a 7-iron anymore. They wouldn't keep it on the green, you know, so it's just changed a lot. What else do you think that's changed in it?
Well, I think mostly the putting stroke has changed because it's had to fit the putting surfaces that we had. Now, think about prior to 1965, where the putting stroke was nothing more than just
Right.
a flick of the wrist, whether it's Bobby Jones or Gene Sarazen or Hogan or Snead, Arnold Palmer, Billy Casper. But they had to, because the greens were more like our fringes today, so they needed to add loft to the putter to get it up on top of the grass and get it rolling. Right around 65, the greens were getting okay, and we noticed that a lot of the putters on the tour started to eliminate that wristy move through the ball. They started to use more arms.
Right.
And that lasted until about 96. And in 96, we started to see a new putting stroke come to the tour, brought to the tour by these young players who grew up on putting surfaces. The putting stroke that they used involved the bigger muscles of the body, being the upper back, the shoulders, and the upper chest. So literally, they would just lock the arms into the body, and any motion of the putter was a direct result of what these big muscles were doing.
Right.
Now, that was new to us in 96 and 97. Now, here we are 20 years later, 25 years later, every player on the tour uses that stroke because the greens are getting so much faster.
Right. Yeah, it's really changed. It's changed so much the way you think about it. And how much they break and everything. It's just really, it's fascinating. It's changed so much. Don, we've known each other for a long, long time until we got together. And you're in Maryland, and I've been in the South my whole life. But you've been influenced by a number of teachers, and a lot of them are in this room.
Yes, they are.
And all the people in this room have influenced me. And so we met. You came down to Tennessee to see me after I spoke, but you were already really close to Bob Tyson, and you had spent a lot of time with him. So I think all of us in the front of the mirror were sad that he's not still with us, although he's with us still alive, but he's not teaching with us. But he's still doing great, about to have a birthday. And I would say, what do you think of all the lessons that Bob taught you, such a wise man? What would you say could be some of the most special moments?
Well, especially about the group of gurus you have here, he's probably one of the top. My first lesson with Bob, I was playing at the time, it's called the Space Coast Tour. And I was struggling. I asked who to go to, and there was a lot of good teachers, but they said, if you can see Bob Tyson, he'll teach you how to play golf. So I had $316 to my name, and he was $100 at that time, 1989. And I called him, and he said, you meet me at 10 o'clock at this golf course. So I got there about 9 o'clock. I'm hitting balls. He pulls up, and he watches me, and I hit 3 pretty good shots. And he said, you have no idea where the club is. You have no idea where the swing path is going, and I know you don't know where the golf ball's going. Okay. So we started it, got to 12 o'clock, and I go, man, that's 200. So he goes, come on, let's go to lunch. So we went to lunch. He bought lunch. He goes, kites never pay for lunch, and you'll never pay for lunch. I said, okay. So we get back. I thank him for the lesson, go to pay. He goes, we're not done yet, son. So I said, all right. So 1 o'clock comes, I go, I know, I'm tapped.
Yeah, you're 300.
I'm 300 in.
He got 600.
So now,
You're gonna be watching.
it gets to 4 o'clock. Right, well, it's 4 o'clock, and basically I can't swing anymore because I don't know how to call my dad to ask him to Western Union money. So I'm fried. At 5 o'clock, he goes, son, I need to let you go. I can't spend any more time with you, but you need to come back and see me. I said, Mr. Tyson, thank you. This is the greatest lesson. I pulled my wallet out like I had it. What do I owe you? And he said, I gave you today what Sam Snead and Jimmy DeMeritt gave me when I was a young man, passing on no church. So I kept going down there. And the amazing thing about Bob was, he was big on the hands. He goes, you need to know where the club face is at impact, and into that hands places the truth. So I need you to understand the hands and what they do to be able to play golf and hit shots. But I would watch him teach. And Rob, to this day, I've never seen a man teach. I tried to figure out what he was going to teach. I go, well, okay, he's going to work on this. He'd go to the feet. I'd stand beside him, and he goes, is he across the line or laid off? I go, I don't know, at a bad angle. He goes, you need to train your eyes. You're not clicking. He goes, now what would you work on? And I think, I go, well, I think he's leaning back, and he'd go, no, I think he needs to do, I could never guess what he was going to do. So he taught me kind of how to be a player, but more of an artist when it comes to teaching.
Right.
He certainly didn't have a method. And then I moved on, and I met Chuck Cook. I think he's probably.
Yeah.
And Chuck taught me how to incorporate the hands and body and meld it together. And he was a good businessman. And I learned watching Chuck how to be able to put the swing together from the whole point of the body and arms and hands together. And so that was a big influence on me. Then I haven't spent a lot of time with him personally, but every time I would be, especially with the junior camp we did in Nashville,
Right.
was my first exposure to Randy Smith. The greatest communicator was someone I've ever seen. Randy, after he gets done talking to you, you think you can throw a rotten strawberry through a brick wall, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he has a way of communicating a picture and making you believe in yourself.
Right. No doubt.
So I found that with my juniors, Daddy would always be like, that ain't right, that ain't right. And I started to, I guess, believe in them before they believed in me.
Full of Randy.
I bought a Randy.
There you go.
And I found that to be really helpful with teaching. And then lastly, I remember a quote by Vince Lombardi. He goes, "Don't ever let the teacher have more passion than you, but you got to bring passion to teaching. And you got to bring that out of your student." And there's one guy who really brings a lot of passion. Rob Akins. He brings the heart to the lesson. And so I try to bring a little bit of artistic with Toski, but be able to find the ball at impact. Incorporate that with the whole kind of swing with Chuck, and while I was on that, he kind of really got me thinking on, I went to his house. I said, and he was great. I told that story about Toski, and I said, "Chuck, I was at a seminar." I said, "I have a question. I have this." He goes, "Instead of asking me, why don't you come watch me?" I said, "Really? That'd be awesome." He says, "You come down and do a golf school with me." I said, "That'd be awesome. I want to do just like you do." He says, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, I want to shadow you." So he picks me up at the airport, and I didn't really know him that well when I offered that. He said, "You sure you want to shadow me?" I said, "Yeah, I want to shadow you." He says, "I'll meet you right here at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning." He says, "You drink chicory?" I said, "No." He says, "You are not." So he says, "Now we're going to the gym from 6 to 7. He said, "Now Kite will be there, but we're going to the gym. Can you run sprints?" I said, "Yeah, I can run sprints." He said, "Don't let me beat you." So he did that, and then we went and taught to the dart.
Right.
And we're driving back. He was at Barton Creek then, and he stopped at the store, went and got two steaks, some wine. Then he went in and cooked them out on his patio, just he and I. He says, "You got more questions than anyone I've ever met." He said, "I'm sitting here at this picnic table, and we ain't going in until you're done asking questions." So that's Chuck Gulp.
Yeah.
So, and the same with you. You're like that too. So I ate crabs with Rob and his son.
Kind of same thing. You didn't know me either. You showed up. Next thing you know, you were living at my house, eating
And-
crabs and staying there. So
And we're late talking. So I think those are the guys I try to really absorb those characteristics.
you've done an awesome job.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
And it's awesome with these guys.
Absolutely. Through all the sharing, that's how we all get somewhere.